The road cuts through the Texas hill country like a scar. Jagged limestone cliffs rising on either side, cedar trees bending in the wind. When dusk falls here, the air shifts. The sound of cicadas fade, and the hills fall silent, as if the land itself is holding its breath. They call this 20-mile ridge the Devil's Backbone, a name earned through centuries of blood, tragedy, and mystery. Locals say ghosts are as common here as spines on a cactus. Soldiers still ride through the canyons, monks drift through the fog, and a woman walks the roadside calling for someone long gone. This is a place where stories don't fade with time. They echo. Tonight we're headed deep into the heart of Texas to uncover the legends and lingering spirits of the Devil's Backbone, where the past refuses to rest. Hello friends, my name is Marcia, and this is Midwest Ghost Hunters. To understand why so many call this land haunted, you have to start with the ground itself. The backbone sits along an ancient earthquake fault line that runs beneath the hill country. The ridge is rugged, dry, and wild, the kind of place that tests anyone who dares to settle here. Long before the arrival of Europeans, this land was sacred to the Comanche and Apache tribes. The ridge gave them a high vantage point to watch over the valleys below. It was a place of power and conflict. The Comanche in particular were feared and respected throughout the region until the 1860s, when settlers began pushing further west. In the 1700s, Spanish explorers and missionaries passed through. One of them, a Franciscan monk named Espinosa, left a legacy of brutality. His ambition and violence would later feed into the legends that still surround this area. Then came the Civil War. Renegade Confederate soldiers reportedly used the backbone as a hideout, searching for stolen gold and sheltering from Union patrols. Many never left these hills alive. Even in modern times, the road that winds across the ridge, twisting, narrow, and dangerous, has claimed lives in tragic car accidents. When you consider everything that's happened here, the tribal battles, the gold seekers, the ruthless monk, and the countless travelers who've met their end, it's easy to see why people say the land remembers. The stories that come out of Devil's Backbone are as varied as the people who tell them, but a few keep surfacing again and again. Ranch foreman Lynn Gentry once thought he heard thunder rolling through the hills, but as the sound grew closer, he realized it wasn't a storm. It was the pounding of hooves. His cabin shook with the force of it. When he stepped outside, he saw a group of men on horseback dressed in gray Confederate uniforms. Dust trailed behind them, but the ground beneath was undisturbed. There were no hoof prints, no storm, just silence, thick and heavy. Local writer Bert Wall once described looking out his window on a cold night and seeing a monk bathed in pale light. The figure wore a tattered robe and carried a wooden cross. Wall said he watched for nearly 15 seconds before the figure dissolved into the mist. He later wrote that the monk's face was calm, almost sorrowful, as though carrying centuries of regret. One hunter, John Myers, was sitting in a tree stand when he heard footsteps circling below him. The air went still, no wind, no sound, except the soft crunch of movement. When he climbed down, he saw no one, but felt eyes on him. Halfway back to the house, he turned and saw a man crouched by the tree, dressed in buckskin and painted for war. The stranger looked at him silently, then vanished as Mears stepped closer. Other ranchers have claimed to see a native man they call Drago herding cattle that isn't really there, driving phantom herds through the fog. Along a nearby stretch called Purgatory Road, drivers tell of a shadowy figure that appears on the hood of their cars, only to vanish the instant they slam on the brakes. Paranormal investigators have captured faint voices on EVPs here, and some claim to see shapes moving just beyond the edges of the headlights. Then there's a story that stands apart from all the rest. In the early 1990s, a man named John Villarreal was hiking near a place locals call the Haunted Valley. He said he felt something watching him. Out of the brush, a gray wolf appeared, silent, eyes locked on his. Then, without warning, it lunged. Villarreal claimed the animal passed straight through him like smoke. He collapsed, shivering, unable to speak. His friends said that his skin went pale, and when he finally did speak, his voice had changed. Low, deep, unnatural. He muttered fragments of Spanish and what sounded like Apache. They finally made it back to their cabin when a sudden wind blasted, slamming the door open and then shut. After that, Villarreal was himself again, but he was confused, shaken, and unaware of what he had said. It's impossible to prove it, but in this part of Texas, people still whisper about the spirit of the wolf, a symbol of guardianship and vengeance in the Comanche belief, and wonder exactly what he encountered that day. If there's one place where the living and the dead are rumored to share a drink, it's the Devil's Backbone Tavern. The tavern stands on land once used as a Native American campsite. In the late 1800s, it served as a blacksmith's shop and stagecoach stop, and by 1937 it had become a bar, built just over the county line so that locals could buy alcohol when the next county was still dry. It sits right on the fault line with wide panoramic views of the canyon below, but inside it feels like time has barely moved. Patrons say that they've seen apparitions in the bar mirrors and felt sudden drops in temperature, even when the doors are closed. And then there's the story of the woman seen walking down the road at night, clutching her baby and calling for her husband. Becky and I stopped into the tavern one afternoon. Even in the bright light of day, the place had a certain energy. The walls were covered with dollar bills, each one signed and stapled there by someone who came before. Locals laughed and told tall tales at the shuffleboard table, but when the conversation turned to the hauntings, everyone seemed to grow quiet, like they didn't want to test the spirits who were listening in. We didn't stay long. Whether it was our Midwestern accents or the fact that we obviously looked like tourists, we were clearly outsiders. Still, it's a place that lingers with you, not for what you see, but for what you sense. Some say the Devil's Backbone is haunted because of the blood spilled on its soil. Others believe it's the isolation, the vast echoing quiet that makes people see what they carry inside. But anyone who's walked this ridge will tell you that it feels different. The wind whistles through the cedar like whispers in another language. The ground itself seems alive, shifting, remembering. Maybe it's a place where history keeps replaying itself. Maybe it's where the veil is thin enough for the past to reach through. Whatever the reason, one thing's certain. When you drive the Backbone at night, you're not alone. Have you ever been there? Have you heard the hoofbeats or seen the shadows move? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and may the truth reveal itself in the shadows.